Hello, everyone. So I have with me today Reed, and Reed is right there. Hey, Reed.
Hey everyone.
Hey. All right. So Reed has this really cool website called Insurance of Arizona, where he has not launched it yet. He just got done designing this website through a through a friend who is a web designer. And he wanted to get an opinion on what he can do to improve uh, the probability for getting more leads on this existing page. So I'm just browsing through the page really quick, just so that you guys have an idea on what the page looks like and the current state of it before any changes that are done. Now, my goal with this presentation or with this video is to show anyone and everyone to how they can take these four simple steps that can help them improve conversion on their website or their landing page. A lot of times we do get confused and don't know what to put on the website that will help you improve um, more conversion, more visitors, more leads, getting more sales. We get lost into just being putting technical jargon on our web pages, but what really is important is what your customers really want to see on the page and how they want to experience your page when they're visiting the web for the first time. So before we jump onto the whole conversion optimization of things, I want Reed you to kind of explain, give me a little background on your business, what started the idea, and where you're heading with it.
Thanks, Drew. Well, I am a personal financial planner, so I work with many people on a daily basis. And while my focus is primarily on investments and retirement accounts and helping students get to college, the foundation for a solid financial plan does include insurance. However, normally that conversation or speaking about insurance deviates our conversation in that direction. It can sometimes be difficult to talk about both their retirement plan and life insurance at the same time. And the reason is you have to ask some personal questions like what is your height, what is your weight, do you smoke cigarettes, etc. So I have built, with the help of a friend, Dustin, this landing page so that while that comes up in our conversation and it's really important for them to go out and purchase, I can steer them to a streamlined solution where they can go and handle that, and then I can facilitate along the way. So our idea was to provide a simple web page for people looking for term life insurance. And my goal is to be able to use that for my existing clients and then also to generate new clients through advertising on Facebook.
Okay, great. So you did mention that you have a designer friend who is helping Dustin. Now, before I jump any further, I just want to let you know that I am on Dustin's side when it comes to making iterations to the page. Sometimes designers hate making changes to what they have already created. And some of the suggestions that I may give may require intensive time from his end. So I do apologize to Dustin in advance. Not throwing any criticism at his design work. My criticism will be strictly based upon how the visitor interacts with the page and has nothing to do with design in general. It's more about the copy on the page or the content on the page and how to kind of work with that. So, Dustin, please accept my apologies if this increases your workload. Also, quick question. Usually, what is your turnaround time when you're getting things done through a designer developer? Just so that the viewers of this video understand if they fall in the same category as you when they're working with somebody who is not a designer but who's getting things done through a designer or a developer.
Yeah, great question. I would say everything is normally communicated via email, and fastest changes happen within. And then sometimes, if Dustin has a lot of work, can take a week to be changed.
Okay, so on average, I think it's right to assume that it takes anywhere from couple days to maybe a week or two to uh, Im- implement these changes. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. Just so that other audiences know that even though these four simple tricks are available to you, it may take up to a week if you're working with a designer or somebody external to uh, implement these changes. So it's not something that you can implement immediately right away. Although you can if you do have creative control and have a tool that's capable of doing so. But idea over here is to not have you switch your current existing CMS, whether you're using WordPress or Weebly or any of those content management tools that are out there on the web. Idea is to help you implement these, yourself or using help of a designer, developer person that you have in-house or working contractually with them. So with that, moving forward, here's the quick little, understanding of what we will be working with. We are working with Life Insurance of Arizona. The background is Insurance of Arizona offers life term insurance at a competitive price in general. um, the goal is to launch this website and drive leads through this page that they have currently. And then the method of outreach, give me a little bit information. I think what I understood is you're doing more of the Facebook ad to drive the initial traffic. Am I correct?
Yes, and we are initially moving in that direction because we want to target, people between the ages of 25 and 45 that are married, that own a home and have kids. These are all reasons why someone would need life insurance, and Facebook can give us that information, and we can be even more targeted with our ad spend.
Okay, I think that is actually really, really awesome that you actually understood your audience a little bit before creating a page, or you actually had a, I would say, go to market plan in mind before, creating this web page or whatnot. Usually people do get lost. They don't know where they're going to market out once they have the page ready, and that's where you see a lot of people not getting enough traffic onto their website. It is very important. I would personally say, like, create like a buyer persona, like, what are their traits, what are the things that make them tick, what are the things that make them drive away. And those are the things that you really want to pay attention to when you're generating a lot of content for them. And especially using Facebook, for example. I'm assuming because what you're selling is term life insurance, people who are over the age of, like, say 30 plus, I would say 35 plus in general, but 30 plus, just to assume, it really helps you target a very specific set of people that are in that age group that just got married or have children. Going into demographics and psychographics, it really helps you find the exact audience, and that's something that Facebook is great with. And spending money with them, if you do have a buyer persona or a targeted market that you're going after and you have done enough research, you can really benefit out of it. I have seen people, by the way, who have spent thousands of dollars on Facebook ads and have not gotten anything in return. But I'm glad to hear that you're heading in the right direction. You are researching before you are marketing, so that definitely helps you, um, you know, have a competitive edge, if anything. Um, or I guess higher reach of potential customers, right? So I think you're heading in the right direction with the Facebook ads, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So what we want to do is there are the four tricks is pretty much there's like hundreds of tricks, but I have simplified it to four main things that you can change to an existing page now, uh, strictly by looking at your existing web page that I saw as it stands and what you can do. Although the page looks really nice, and we can take a quick tour of your page. Let me just exit out of this presentation, and let's take a look at your page really quick. So you have your navigation up top, then you have some sort of search feature. We'll talk about that in a bit. You have a big headline that says build your financial security with affordable term life insurance, and then Life Insurance of Arizona provides the lowest rates and local personalized advice. And after that, it says start here for a free personalized quote. After that, I see a lot of blank space, so we'll talk a little bit about that. I do like that you do have a privacy guarantee and a VeriSign secured, and we'll go in detail with that also. I see, and a lot of people who are probably watching this already may have an idea of what they want changed on this page, but right now we are just completely looking at as skeptical, right? Like a first time visitor coming to the page, and that's what I guess majority of your traffic will be, is first time visitors. um, you have a message over here that says having adequate life insurance protection is an important part of securing your family's financial future. After that, you have a bunch of logos, but I don't know. It's kind of unclear to me at the point whether um, are these the different companies that you work with, and if you do, it's not stated anywhere over here. It just shows a bunch of logos. Maybe it's used for using credibility. Then it just says choosing life insurance policy has never been easier. Get started with Life Insurance of Arizona today in three simple steps. I'm just reading the entire copy as if I'm the first time visitor and I really am interested. So I'm judging for myself, like, will I be driven away with some of the content that's on the page, or will I actually make a decision to make a purchase or submit my quote, right? And then we can discuss into some methods that you can use now that you can improve this, improve the possibility of somebody who is interested, and how to get them, started. Then you have three steps, submit the form, receive a custom code, and accept payment online. Underneath, it feels like you have some people who have success, and then this is where I think you're mentioning that you work with some of these insurance companies or some of these services, and then you have a little call to action that says get a quote. Underneath it, it just says lock in the coverage with different type of policies, and your monthly payment never changes, which is a good guarantee, solid guarantee to have right around the get a quote call to action. And then serving all of Arizona, so you're telling how you're hyper local or local, at least serving the local market and not everyone all over the globe. So a lot of people do trust because of, I don't know, recent events or recent changes. More and more people tend to not trust enterprises. They tend to trust smaller businesses more. They've just had a bad taste in the mouth dealing with enterprise level or big companies in general. So I do like the fact that you do have, serving all of Arizona and becoming a very local person. And then you have frequently asked questions, and then you have some logos over here. Again, these logos don't tell me much. Like, I don't know whether is any of your stuff featured on any of these or what you need to do with that. And then you have a simple contact form at the bottom, and we'll talk about how we can improve even this part to be more engaging. And underneath you have just contact information, and again, pretty much a footer that closes the page. Sometimes I ask myself, why do people even use footers? Like, do people even go to the footers of the pages, right? It's a question that I frequently ask myself when I'm, um, uh, in making designing pages on my own. Um, so back to the presentation. I guess the methods that may help improve uh, the probability of people opting in to your service. What I have done is I have broken it down into four things that doesn't require too much technical expertise. This is more of how you're aligning content and writing the copy on the page. So I'm trying to make it as non-technical as possible, just so that um, my goal is to have anybody, I guess, be able to make these changes on their self, without having to look for a designer or developer to help you with these kind of things, right? So the first one, with that said, I guess, would be working with different value propositions, so-called headliners, and how to improve them. The second one is, realigning content to guide visitor through a process, how the visitor is thinking, understanding that a little bit, what their mindset is, help them move towards your offer, whatever that is. So, you know, there is a specific flow process on how you do that. So we'll talk about that. Change the way conventional conversion happens via forms, and how to reduce the visitor's anxiety. So usually what happens is people don't want to give their information away for free, or they just don't want to give away their information, period. People don't like, getting calls all the time, or getting their information sold to some spammy website, or mailing list that uh, constantly emails them or bothers them while they're working or with the family. So understanding that and how to reduce that anxiety to build that trust with your visitor. And then number four would be measuring success, obviously. Idea is how to use some measuring techniques on what to measure. Sometimes people don't know how they measure success, and for different industries, different businesses, um, the this could be completely different, right? For CEO of a company, he just wants to measure the bottom line of the business, how much money they're making, or how many new customers they're getting, and not really worry about the small metrics that come through the web and all that. So how do you measure that success? So with that said, what I want to do is I kind of want to let everyone know that idea behind, again, the presentation is, we are taking your website, for example, right now, Read, which is a life insurance policy, but these methods could be used across any type of business. That's a small business, large business, single entrepreneur business. So it could be covered by any business owner, any website, and that's the whole idea. Are you good with that?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, cool. All right, so we'll first talk about the value proposition and how, you can improve that. So without looking at your web page, I kind of want to go through these few things before we jump back into the web page and, discuss back and forth what could be done on the page to improve its conversion value proposition. So always know, one of the best quotes that I heard from Greg Head. I don't know if you know, if you're in Phoenix, you should know Greg Head, but I don't know if you're familiar with Greg Head. Reed.
Yeah, I am. He's great, great guy, mentor, and worked at Infusionsoft.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, he was a CMO of Infusionsoft. I think he does something else. He's doing his own consulting gig at the moment. I think he's coming out with a book too, which I'm excited to read more about it. But what he mentioned was, skeptical buyer wants to know your real intent. Uh, what he meant by this, and this goes across not even just local brands that you have, but even on the web page. 70% of your new visitors, meaning the people who are coming to your website for the first time, 70% of them are usually skeptical of what you're selling to them and what your real intent is. It's not that they let it be known right away, but that's the subliminal thought that's going in their head is, what is this guy really doing with with this business? Is he spamming me? Is he a good person, bad person? Sometimes it plays in your favor, and sometimes it does not. So always want to keep in mind that about 70% of your traffic are skeptical buyers, and you want to either convince or clarify your value proposition to the skeptical buyers, and we'll talk about it when we go back to your page. um, Second, I guess, topic is people buy from people, not from web pages. So a lot of time we end up thinking that I have a website and great, that's gonna drive traffic for me, and it has all this technical jargon written on it, and I don't care if people read it or not. But people don't usually come to a web page just to interact with a machine. They want to interact with a human being, as much as possible on the page. Make your page read as if a human has written it and a human can read it. Don't go too vague and too verbose on things. And one of my key, I guess, uh, items, examples that I give people is write as if you're writing for a seventh grader on a page. And the good example for that would be something like a free car wash, right? Even if a high school graduate, high school dropout or a college graduate reads a free car wash, they understand what a free car wash is, right? Um, Everybody knows what a free car wash is. It's so simply defined, and sometimes people fail to put that on their website. They become either too technical or they're not even talking to the right audience, right? And that's why it's kind of important to create a buyer persona also. Um, the next topic is use emotional hot buttons to engage with the reader. So uh, if I'm assuming correctly, for your business in particular, financial planning and life insurance policies, people only decide to take these actions when there is some emotional appeal to it. Am I correct?
Absolutely.
So tell me some of the times that, or when are the times that people actually think of, uh, changing or buying into a life insurance policy?
Most common times that we see are when people get married,
Okay.
purchase a home, or have a baby.
Okay.
And I would say maybe the fourth one is they feel like they need to get organized around their finances.
Okay.
And that category can have subcategories like they feel like they need to be better at managing their money, or they feel like they received a strong recommendation from someone, or listened to a program on the radio, or even they're frustrated with their current company and are looking for a new one. So I would say the four main categories are marriage, purchasing a home, having children, or what we'll call getting organized around finances.
Okay. So I would love to see some of those, and on your webpage. And if you already have it, I'd love for you to show me this type of language on your homepage that you have created. And again, these are really, really good points. Especially when they're something that you mentioned, that they are looking to reorganize, or sometimes they're frustrated with their existing services that they do have. There are stories that I have heard in the past where sometimes people feel cheated out of uh, by insurance agents and stuff, and how you can build that credibility with your customer on the web page, so that you can really assure them that that's not the case with you. How you do it, we'll talk about that too. And then the last one is declare the current state of emotion your visitor is in when visiting the page. So this goes back to saying people only buy from you when they are ready to buy from you, meaning you cannot shove food down somebody's mouth if they're not hungry, right? They only eat when they're hungry, for example. So
Yeah.
people only buy. So you might get like hundreds of people coming to your website, but only when they are ready they will make a purchasing decision. One thing that again I'll compliment you again is using Facebook ads as a primary source to drive traffic. That way you're already narrowing down exactly who you want to bring. So you're not planning on bringing thousands and thousands of users. You're bringing very targeted people. Even if you bring 15 people in a day, that's actually worth bringing, because these people have intentions. They will be in that options category. One more thing, as I guess I can say bonus, on the fifth thing, on this particular value proposition, that you can add in, I guess, is when you're thinking of people who are ready to buy when they're ready to buy. What you can also do is ask a question for yourself. What type of experience I want these people to feel. So, what I mean by this is, you interact with three different type of customers in general. You interact with them in their pre-purchasing phase, so pre-buying, during the purchasing phase, and then post purchasing phase, right? So people who are just browsing around to look for options, people who are ready to purchase or make a decision, buying decision, and then people who have already purchased a decision and looking for a way to improve upon that policy, kind of a thing, right? So these are the things that you want to kind of let them know, in general. So with that said, let's go back to your page. We can use these five methods that I just mentioned to improve the value proposition on your existing homepage. So let's just switch back over here. So right off the bat, when I read build your financial security with affordable term life insurance, and then underneath in small text, life insurance policy of Arizona provides the lowest rates and local personalized advice. Um, it just tells me that one, this page is either copied from some existing website that's already out there, or it's a template and not much thought was given into writing the content to make the template look great. What I mean by no criticism to your web designer at this point, at all. This is strictly content. So a design on the page, and this is research backed. No matter how creative your page looks, that only drives about 20% of your sales. The other 80% is what you write on the page. You can make anything look fancy. You see party flyers or college party flyers all the time, but you don't attend all of them just because they look pretty or creative. It's I call it the Hooters effect, right? Hooters, all the male, I guess male audience would go to Hooters, really enjoy their first time, but the food does not taste all that great. The women are great, and that's why they get attracted to it. They go to it, and then they realize that they're not getting the best quality of food. So the looks can only take you so far if the quality with it is not all that great. So I call it the Hooters effect, and no offense to Hooters. Hooters is great. I love their rings that they have over there, but I don't frequent there that often anymore. Uh, but again, so going back to the design of the design of the page looks really great. I think the value proposition definitely needs to be a lot more appealing than just saying build your financial security with affordable term life insurance. The reason being, this reads very generic to me. This is something that you read in magazines day in day out. So you're not really differentiating yourself from what's already out there. So this almost feels like just another coupon in your mail, right? You get hundreds of them and you throw all of them out. You never look at them, you never bother. Most people just end up checking their mail and putting all the coupons in the trash can right next to the mailbox. So when I read this, it does not have any emotional attachment to it. And within the first 3 seconds, which is the average bounce rate, like within the first 3 seconds, people end up leaving a web page because you're not carrying a conversation properly with them. What I would suggest, you can change these with some of those emotional triggers that we talked about earlier, where you were talking about people are just getting married or just having a first child or just looking into refinancing a lot of their things. Those are the times when they really think about these things, right? So I would literally change this headline to be a little bit more meaningful and using those emotional heart trigger buttons. One pro tip I can give you is never start with a question. So don't say, just got a new baby, try a new life insurance. Do not, please do not try that. That is not the right way of talking. Like, you cannot expect, like, let's say, let me give you an example. You're walking down the mall, right? And you see a person with a baby. You don't just go up to them and ask them a question. Just got a baby, would you like an insurance, right? That is not how you carry a conversation in person. So why would you do that on a web page? Okay, so think in that term, and never start with a question. Never start with a question unless it's absolutely important for you to ask that question, which is like, life or death kind of approach. So never start with a question, but make it so that even the changing of words over here, Arizona Life Insurance of Life Insurance of Arizona provides, term life insurance for people who are looking to, and then you can give them bullet points of, like, whether you're doing this or this. So literally having a headline that follows through with either a bunch of commas or bullet points where exactly who you are serving to. People then, when they come from a paid ad, because it is targeted to them, when they come to this, they know that this is speaking to me and it's reiterating what I just read on that little ad that was ran on Facebook, right? So that is how I would write it. And how it says start here for a free personalized quote. So what I would say is, I would change the word free. I would completely take the word free out, but you can say start your personalized quote here. And the reason why I said take it free is when the term free itself sometimes has a negative connotation, right? Is it free? Am I gonna get spammed? Why is it free, right? Like, a lot of questions occur when something is free. But if you are very direct and telling them exactly how they're getting it or what they're getting it, uh, you can literally say start, personalizing your finances now. Like, a better call to action that does not go on the button but is a call to action nonetheless. So probably I would suggest taking out the word free. When I see, this text right here, Life Insurance of Arizona provides the lowest rates and local personalized advice. Again, this almost sounds like a generic jargon that everyone has and everybody uses. So this is almost like we are thinking from our logical part of the brain that this is what we do, so this is what I'm going to put. But ideally, what you want to do is you want to tell them why you do something before you tell them what you do. And there is a great video that a gentleman named Simon Sinek, I don't know if you've seen it. He made a video called Start With Why. Um, and it really goes into the deeper aspects of human psychology and human brain biology. More than psychology, it's more about biology, on how people think logically last and they think emotionally first. Although as men, we think that we think logically first. A lot of emotional appeal happen subliminally before we actually start thinking logically. So trigger those emotions out of people when you're writing a content for them. That will definitely improve, your value proposition. You're talking to them one to one and not one to many. When you think of one to many, you don't, get anywhere, kind of a thing. Again, over here it says having adequate life insurance protection is an important part of securing your family's financial future. Excuse me. This right here is something that probably fits in over here as a secondary headline. If you make this one appealing to, like, we serve to this type of audience, over here is where you can say having adequate, and take action now, like something more valuable that they can immediately do by filling up this form. And we'll go in detail with the form also, but right now we'll talk about value proposition. What I would also suggest is, instead of just having these logos, similar to how you mentioned it over here, that we work with country's top rated and most trusted insurance carriers and all that, you do want to bring that over here. What I would also do is, around this area somewhere, what you want to do is you want to either put your personal photo, and a personal quote from you, just to build that credibility that you are not just another hack out there that's trying to collect leads, but you are a real person, and this is how you can contact uh, me, kind of a thing, right? Um, you tell that to people who are seriously investing in you, let them that I'm willing to invest back in you also, kind of a thing, right? So that's something that you may want to do. Choosing a life insurance policy has never been easier. And then it says get started, so I would definitely improve these fonts over here a little bit. What I would do is probably work with a lot of these languages over here, and I think we can go through these in our second slide, our second topic, which is realigning a lot of information. But overall, my value proposition, usually your headline and value proposition is within the first fold of the page. So I hope you have some idea on what you need to do in order to improve just this part of the page, if I'm addressing myself correctly. Okay, so the next one, after we do the value proposition and headliners change, how do we make a visitor go through a specific flow process, realigning the uh, process of the page so it drives the user through your offer. Dane Maxwell, he created this 10-step method. He did this really amazing interview on Mixergy with Andrew Warner in the past, if I remember correctly. But he gave away like a PDF, and I'll see if I can borrow his PDF and share it with people through this video. I'll reach out to him and see if I can just give that away to the audience that's watching this video. But what he, I think, mentioned was a 10-step process on how to create a really cool flow of how a human brain thinks, and aligning your message with the human brain. So, he has instant clarity headline, then declaring a problem, presenting your solution, and then borrowing credibility. So this is where you kind of, what you have on your website is like, we work with these kind of insurances, or like, these are the people who have gained success, kind of a thing, or how much they have saved. So I saw that part at the very bottom of the page, so that's something that could move up. Social proof is something where you talk in numbers, like, this many people out of this many people have gained this much advantage, kind of thing, right? It could be like a one liner, or you can show it in like a graph or data, or however you do it. Idea behind this is like showing one-to-one value, like, I think Geico does it really well. Like on average, people save 15% or more on life insurance or car insurance or something, right? So telling them that this is the average that you can save when you do it. So keeping that in mind, put some sort of statistics on your page that give them one-to-one value of what they're giving and what they're getting back, kind of a thing, right? After that is social proof. This is where you kind of use again like some of those examples. I did we oh yeah, okay, I was talking about borrowing credibility and then social proof, sorry. And social proof is where you can literally show, those stats and numbers that we talked about. Next one is testimonials. So testimonials is where if you have a customer who is willing to give a testimony, only then put it. Don't fake a testimony. People can read through it right away. What I would also recommend is one thing that you mentioned is, um, uh, people telling other people, like a recommendation, people recommending that you try this kind of a thing. If those people, so if you're using Facebook, and I think Facebook says, like, this person recommended this kind of a thing. If you can run an ad in a way that a person has recommended something, and if you bring that person's face or testimonial over here, that would be really great. Like, instead of testimony, you can really put like that person recommended this, and if that person is related to you, you are more likely to adapt to the same service that they have because they're satisfied with it. The next thing is clear call to action. So this is where you make that call to action and give them assurance that, with the reversing all risks, point number 8, that you are aligning a call to action with reversing all the risks all the time, meaning any risk that they have, any obligation that they may have, you're reversing that. Number 9 may not apply to you, which is price anchoring, but if that's what helps them, you can say something like insurance start at as low as $35 a month or something, because sometimes that might be the value catcher for a lot of people. And your call to action could change. Instead of saying get a quote, it says show me life insurance policies that are less than so many dollars, kind of thing, a month. And that might completely change the way you're doing it. And then the last one is frequently asked questions. So that's where you just address some of the main questions or concerns a lot of people have. So going back to your web page, let's see how we can realign a lot of these things. So number 1, and I'll try to put this side by side over here so we can kind of see exactly what's going on. Um, so let's see. All right, there. So you can see both, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So, instant clarity headline. So we kind of already talked about how we want to do that. Presenting a problem and, declaring a problem and presenting your solution. So that is something that I absolutely see missing on your page, or it's not available anywhere, in my opinion, besides this little fact that, it's important part of your securing your family's financial future. So that's like a one place where you're kind of presenting a problem, but you're not really presenting a solution right after it. And these three things, instant clarity headline, declaring a problem, and presenting a solution, all could be combined into one thing, which is like a headline, a sub headline, and a a clear call to action right over here. These three things can collectively make these three options that you have. um, then I saw one thing that I saw, it says VeriSign secured. This is usually used when your page is doing any financial transactions. I don't assume that this page is doing any financial transactions. Plus, I also don't see a HTTPS on your link. Like, it's not a secure server link. So this logo, although it's here, it almost builds an antitrust against your page. So you may want to rethink whether you do want this logo over here, or do you want to have a secured. And I'm assuming once you really go live, you'll probably have a SSL certificate that makes this page a secured. transaction, so the information provided over here is not uh, you know used elsewhere, kind of, because it does ask some of the very personable questions over here, especially the height, weight, whether they're smokers. This could definitely give some people, chances of, being mailed, or I guess being spammed by other services, if they have access to this kind of information. So I do recommend either remove this, use a different logo, either use, like, 100% guaranteed, or like money back guarantee, or some kind of other guarantee logo if you don't plan on using VeriSign for security. Don't build antitrust against your visitors. But going back to, and that goes part of the boring credibility, right? Like, you are telling them that we are a credible source and we have this and that. You don't want to build antitrust that, hey, you're a faker. What I would also do is these things. I think I mentioned it previously, but you do want to say that we work with these insurance, and I think you did mention it underneath it, but it definitely needs to be over here, especially over here. You can probably move this up over there somewhere and put that over here. So your borrowing of credibility is, right there. Underneath this, though, is where we need to make huge set of change. So underneath it is where you want to do the social proof. So social proof is where you show how people are um, gaining advantage, or how they are saving how much. So I think you did that over here. It says coverage amount this, and like, so these are some of the sample, just how affordable the insurance is and whatnot, right? So this is like the credibility thing that I was talking about. This probably needs to be over here. So the way a visitor's mind reads it is like, okay, you talk to my emotional appeal. I don't really care about this all that much at the moment, but you did talk to me in my emotional appeal. I'm not ready to make a decision right away on giving my information to you. But as I scroll down, okay, so you do work with the ones that I'm kind of comfortable with, or I've heard of, or some of them I have not even heard of, but I'd like to see what they have to offer, right? So underneath it is a perfect time to show, like, these people have gained this kind of, what do you call, policies, with this kind of, advantage or disadvantage when working with something. So that is where you put this, social proof of things. After that, you can bring testimonials. Again, something I mentioned to you, you don't need testimonials if you don't have any, but if you do, feel free to add them after that. You see how it says lock in the coverage for this and this, and your monthly plans never change. So these are the cool things that you go into the call to action and reversing all risks. So these always need to be next to each other. The reason being is when you're having a clear call to action, like, hey, take advantage of this or do that, you want to also help them avoid any kind of risks that they are taking by switching into it. What I would do is this stuff should go underneath a long call to action. Again, not to criticize your designer at all, and I don't want to increase his workload if I don't have to. But this little call to action that you have going on over here, I would put it above this whole thing, because in the reversing all risk is where you can really put this choose your life insurance policy. Choosing a life insurance policy has never been easier. So imagine a white bar just like this, but you have a big call to action where you're stating something really cool, and then you have a button that says request a quote, and underneath it, it just says how simple it is, right? So this step-by-step process of, like, submitting a form, receiving a quote, and I would take the word custom out and call it personalized. I think that just speaks more value to customer. And then instead of saying accept and pay online, you can probably say something like, access your policy 24/7. That just tells them the same thing. It's just a better way of rewording things. I'd probably change these icons also to just say step 1, step 2, and step 3. Simple as that. The more simpler you make things, the icons sometimes tend to confuse people, in my opinion. So the more simpler you make it, the better it is. One, two, three, everybody understands it, and like this is the step process that I have to take. So ideally, what I would want to see changed is this part where you are showing some kind of social proof moved above uh, this particular area, and underneath it I would probably want a large bar that just says get a quote now and save this much or this X, um, compared to what you're doing right now, kind of a thing, right? Something that really appeals to the people who you just talked to up here with a very strong statement to them. After that is where you really put, this little piece underneath it to reverse any risk, and you can start this little piece with something like this, lock in the coverage, or maybe this could be your call to action where you say this and then next to it is a button that says get a quote, and you can have a but underneath it if the sentence is too long, but underneath, so this bar follows with this thing, the three steps over here, in my opinion. And then you can also, with part of reversing all risk, you can always say serving all of Arizona, kind of thing underneath it. But now that, and you can feel free to share this exact video with your designer also, so he kind of has an understanding of how he wants to create the flow of the content that matches kind of a flow process that actually works in your guys' favor. After that, I do see you do have some frequently asked questions, and what is life insurance, what is term life insurance. So you're really defining some really cool Q and A's. What I would suggest is, how does it personally impact me? So if you are targeting, like, person who just had a child, you may want to write that over here. I just had my first child, how would this affect me, right? That would be a very important point in your I guess in your frequently asked question. I just am planning on retirement, like how would that work? So those are some of the questions that people may have immediately if that's who you are targeting. So you do want to address those in this frequently asked questions. What I would also do is, I don't know why you have these sources, but I would completely get rid of these and probably put another call to action over here, similar to this one, but make it a little bit more personable, and put another call to action. Underneath it, you do have this little thing that says, send us a quick email if you have questions and whatnot. In my personal opinion, we don't need this. You know, uh, this maybe this Facebook widget that you have, maybe you need it, but why would people go and like this page when they're not ready? Or of course you can always ask them to like a page so that they can frequently get updates if they're not ready to make a purchase right away. But besides that, maybe this widget could just change into like just like this page, kind of a social button, with Twitter or something, or share it with a friend, kind of thing, is what you may want to mention. If they're not ready, they may be able to share it with somebody else, right? So uh, you don't really need this section. You can probably make this into the form that's over here, in my opinion. This form could get away without being on the first page. This could be in the second fold of your page, and not in the first fold. And first fold should be more about the value proposition that you're offering, at least in my opinion, because people are not like, they click on the ad and they're not ready to just like, let me just start submitting information right away. At least not the first 70% of those skeptical visitors, right? There might be some people who are really ready to make a big change, but in my opinion, financial services and insurance policies are a very slow, uh, very slow process. It's not something that people immediately just jump on the website and start filling out information. It's like looking for a new car. You don't always fill up like all the information. Only when you're ready to buy it, you look into it and then you kind of go and fill out, right? Um, unless you're like a very credible resource company like Geico or something. But what I would probably suggest is take this part out. Like, you don't need it. At least in my opinion, why would people want to contact you when they're already filling up this information? And if they do want to contact you, I would rather use something like a chat service or something, right? And I think, yeah, so chat service or something. I think you did have Pure Chat or something on this webpage last time I visited. I don't know if it's gone or not visible at the moment. Um, but we'll carry on to the next thing. So see how you already have this little Facebook icon. So you can probably make it like a lot wider, a lot bigger, and just says like the page or share it with a friend who is in need for term life insurance, right? A lot of older senior citizens might just do that and share it with their grandkids or kids, and tell them, hey, you should try this. I really think this is what you're looking into. Because sometimes people stumble upon a page through an ad who are not the direct buyers, but they might want to recommend it to somebody who, in their immediate family or immediate relation, may be the ideal person who's interested in this, right? So that's something that you want to work on realigning. You have your phone number, your email addresses, what hours you're open, and all that stuff at the bottom. I would definitely take this phone number and put it right up here on the navigation bar. I see you have a navigation bar and you have a search thing, but I don't think search really provides uh, any purpose on this page at all. It looks more like uh, a feature that came with the template and it was never altered. So if you just change it to like a phone icon, and then when they click on it, people can, on their mobile devices, uh, browse through this particular page, or make a call right away. But this contact information, because you are doing life insurance related stuff, contact is the first thing they want to do before they do business with you, before they even fill out the form. A lot of people in that age group that you're targeting, my bet is that they would probably want to call you directly and find out information about what you're doing, more importantly. So that's something that you would probably do in terms of realigning a lot of the content on your page. I know that this might be dragging and a lot of work for your designer, but I think it at least will help you get in the right direction of doing it, right? And again, I apologize to Dustin once again. I don't want to increase your workload by any means. I know you're a good friend and trying to help. Moving on to the next topic is changing the conversation that happens with forms. So quickly switch back to, I'll just make this again small so that we have both paints available. But one of the things that is always frustrating is all these form fields that people have to fill in order to get some information, right? One thing that I have seen work day in and day out is providing less set of fields to begin a conversation. If you just ask one question or two questions to begin things, people are more inclined to filling that up and moving on to the next thing to really gamify it, or like, make them feel like they're part of a process that they'll get by the end of filling out this thing. They'll get like a personalized quote. So breaking the form into smaller pieces is very, very important. And one of the examples that I've seen it work really well is this website called 1-800-dentist.com. I don't know if there's an S or not, but let's see. I think it's loading. Again, page speed is one of the biggest killers of conversion. So shout out to 1-800-dentist, but you guys need to improve the page speed on your web page. Okay, so what they have is it just asks you a zip code. So if I start putting a zip code in, so if I put 85234, my zip code, and if I hit find a dentist today, what it does is it literally walks you through a single field process of So it says I need a dentist for, and then you pick from the selected few categories. But one thing you may want to notice is as I'm having these options filled out, at the bottom there is a personality that matches a person in need, right? So instead of having what you have, yeah, I have a plugin that makes the pages expire so it doesn't hog up all my memory. Chrome tends to do that a lot, so it's a cool plugin that makes the page suspend for a bit. It's called the Great Suspender, by the way. But what it does is, as I hit continue, it changes these personalities over here. People who you are really targeting, their faces, conceptually those faces show up. So as I go through next process and next process, so see how the gentleman's face over here showed up, and it had a testimony that it was perfect, I had no trouble finding it and all that. So it reassures the user that what they're filling out is definitely going to help them along the way, right? So these are some of the cool things, and then one question at a time, and a little step by step, like where they are in the process, really helps a customer. And then doing these approved and background checks, all these different things, that they're a member of this, they're that. These are the credibilities that I was telling you about. Instead of using VeriSign, there are a lot of other things that you can kind of use as your credibility, which 1-800 dentist tends to do a lot, and that's why they, I guess, get a lot of leads because of the process. What are the methods of payments that they're looking to do, and you literally continue on. And again, I think your page expired. I need to pause my Great Suspender plugin so it doesn't do that. Okay, so it will not suspend your website from now on. But so you get the idea. Is like, if you were to just ask people, like, are you a smoker or non-smoker? I think I saw one of that option, right? Right here, nicotine user, click here, right? And yes or no, right? Just a simple question. When they do that, you already collected that information. Then you can say, what type of coverage amount you're looking for and what type of term. So these two could be the second step that they fill out. Once they fill out, you ask them for height and weight. So now you're going deeper and deeper in collecting information. And then the last step is where you can ask them for a date of birth and name and contact information. At this time, since they have already given uh, responses to the tougher questions, they will be more inclined to just give you, it's like 80-20 rule. They're 80% there, now they just need to do the 20% of work. They'll go ahead and do that. This will drastically change the way people browse, visit your web page and whatnot. So that was one example. So now I do see you have a live chat available. So a shout out to Pure Chat. Those guys are awesome. Provides live chat on the page, and that allows you to interact with your customers right away. So that it's all about that conversation that you carry with your customer. But if you have a form that takes them step by step, one field at a time, or a group of fields that are relevant at a time. And again, this might be a lot of work for your designer, so I do not ask you to make this. But if it is possible for him to do this, because sometimes it requires more of a technical, meaning coding knowledge, and sometimes designers don't tend to know everything about coding and how information gets collected. So it might be something that might be outside of the scope of your designer. uh, but if it is possible to break the form down into smaller pieces, I definitely recommend doing that. um, Especially changing the way, it just reduces anxiety by tenfolds, in my opinion, when you do that. And then I think the last thing that I did mention over here was just in here was secured seal, rewording what they get out of submitting their information, etc. So like, fill out this form, and we'll give you a personalized assistant and whatnot, right? So definitely want to keep those in mind. Are you following the information that I've given you so far? I think we're at the very last topic after this point, so just want to make sure.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, cool. And do you find this information valuable that you can make these changes and have a big impact on what you currently have?
For sure. I think our page will look better and hopefully convert at a higher level.
Okay, great. Next step is measuring success. How do you measure success? So a lot of people know of Google Analytics, but Google Analytics has about 200 plus metrics and data points that you can collect and create insane reports. And not many business owners, not many non-technical people know how to use it. But here's a quick tip: like if you just use these five things that you start measuring, and if you ask like a technical person in your team to help you set like one page where it only shows these things, for you to measure success on, like what's happening with my website, what how many people are coming, how many of them are staying on the page, and how many of them are leaving. um, this could definitely help you improve a lot of the conversion. And then the last step is like using Google Tag Manager. So rather than using Google Analytics code directly on your page, I think using Google Tag Manager will drastically change the way you do it. And I might do a video on a quick way of how to use Google Tag Manager to drop in all your tracking codes into Google Tag Manager, so you don't have to bug your designer or developer all the time on like new updates or new tracking methods or whatnot and stuff. And you can manage all that through Google Tag Manager. So I might create a video, but I wanted to keep it short and simple on how to measure success, because again, measuring success for different people means different things. But if you just measure how much time people are spending on your page, where they're coming from, where the source of the traffic is, number of visitors that you're getting on a per day basis or on a monthly basis is very important, so that you know where your marketing efforts need to be. Bounce rate, how many people are coming and leaving your website. This is the number one indicator on that tells you that you need to change the language on your page. The more people that are leaving your page, it tells you that they don't understand, they don't just get, or they're skeptical of your process. But I do want to thank you with a closing statement that with this whole video and these four-step process, going back to these four steps, increasing the value proposition, realigning the content, reducing the visitors' anxiety when it comes to filling out forms, and measuring success. Although there are a lot of micro things that happen, the macro effect that you get out of it is a higher, conversion out of the whole entire process. And you can make these changes right now without much of changing what you are existingly doing with your current setup that you have. But do you have any questions at this moment, or did you find any of these the information that I shared with you questionable, or are you skeptical about anything?
No, thank you. Thank you so much for your time. It resonated with me, and I really like the point about having the flow of your website be similar to a conversation that you would have in person. I
Okay.
just think that makes a lot of sense, and I'm excited to put it into place.
Okay, great. I think so. With that, I'll conclude this talk. Feel free to message me or respond to me. I'll probably post this video on a YouTube channel of sort, just so that others can benefit out of it also. But hopefully, you can make these changes, and maybe it would be very interesting for me to reevaluate the page that you have launched. And I guess because a lot of people who are watching this video know the URL of your website, which hopefully brings some traffic to you. But the website is lifeinsuranceofarizona.com. Feel free to visit the website if you are in need. for a life term insurance policy, or if you're a local Arizona or Phoenix native and looking for an option for life insurances.
Thank you.
All right,
All traffic and feedback on the site. Welcome.
awesome. All right, thank you guys, and thank you, Reed.
Thank you.